Okie dokie, Smokies, what are we talking about on this day today?
We're talking about New York City auditions.
We have a lot of topics to cover.
There's
A lot of things to say. So buckle up, Buttercup. I'm gonna get real with you.
Right? Real talk.
When do you audition?
Are you recording?
Now you know when the most important times for you to be available to audition are.
Truth.
Crazy.
So now let's talk about how often do you need to be going to all these auditions?
Every minute.
Every day.
Hashtag survivors. This video is to be continued. Gotcha!
You thought you had to wait a week to hear the rest of that last video? Heck
No.
Nah. Girl, we back. I'm Liv.
I'm Em.
And this is Making Our Way post B.F.A.
What were we talking about last time? We were talking about auditioning in New York.
That's right.
That was part 1. We had a part 1 video. If you haven't watched that, go watch that one first. Then come back to this one so you're all caught up and ready to go for part 2.
So let's talk about our union status. Go start over. All right, so before you start auditioning in New York City, you're gonna want to have a strong grip. Okay.
It's beautiful.
So before you start auditioning, you gotta have a strong grip. Let me do it again. So before you start auditioning in New York City, you're gonna want to have a strong grip on what your union status is. Union status? What does that mean? I'm married. I'm single. Yeah, I'm married, guys.
I don't think so.
Okay, I was saying union status. I'm not married. I'm very single. Union status, not talking about marital status or anything like that.
If you want to hit up my girl, please hit
Yeah.
her up.
See those handles?
See those handles?
Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. So union status, I'm talking equity membership candidate, or non-union. So when we moved here, we were non-union, no EMC points. Started from the bottom, now we here. Let's talk about what it means to be non-union. So being non-union means you've never worked at an equity theater that that gave EMC points or that gave cards out. They're all professional. We all got our B.F.As. We're here, we have our headshots, resume ready to go. We have our rep book, but we haven't yet gotten those equity contracts. When you get to the next level, maybe it's called EMC, or Equity Membership Candidate is what it stands for. And so that comes when you work at a theater that is an equity house that offers EMC points, meaning that you can work towards getting your equity card through working at those theaters. You can go on the equity website and they've got a whole list of all the theaters in the country that are part of that program. Because just because a theater can hire an equity actor doesn't mean that they're part of the equity membership candidacy. EMC program, I don't know what it's called. EMC program. When we got here, we had no points. We started working at theaters that offered EMC points. It currently takes 25 points to be offered the chance to get your equity card. What's an equity card? An equity card means that you're joining Actors Equity Union. So when an equity membership candidate reaches 25 points, they're able to join the union. Another way to get your equity card is you can do a show that just offers you an equity contract. In that case, you don't have to get the 25 points. How do you get said points, you ask? I have the answer. The points are counting the number of weeks you work. When you have your EMC card, it's not gonna say how many points or whatever. It's just gonna say this is when you started it and this is what you did. You'll get an email that'll keep track of it from equity, being hey, this is how many points you have. You do another contract that was 5 weeks, it's 5 plus 7. They're okay, now you have 12 points. You're keeping track till you get to that 25. On the way up, I'm on the way up. That's a song. Do you have to pay for that song?
I don't know, this is the theme of
I'm
this
on
video.
the way up.
Someone who understands royalty law, will you please let us know if we have to pay for this music? Now you're thinking, Why do I need to know my union status? What does it even matter?
How is that affecting auditioning, right?
In New York, there are 80 kabajillion million people, that's a real number,
Kabajillion million people.
trying to go to every single audition. So your union status matters because all of these union rules affect every different call. All right, my feathered friends. This next bit is very important. It is a lot of information.
Get a pen, get a paper,
Get some notebooks.
get your phone out.
Get ready to
like,
pause and restart.
I wish I knew this before I got here. Like really knew it, and I did not. So
Please fall
bless
first.
us, bless us, Miss Adam.
So I'm going to try and do this as clearly and concisely as I can. If you have any questions, please let us know. We want to help you.
Right.
We want to explain it over and over until it absolutely makes sense. So,
it still doesn't make sense to me. Keep going, keep going.
we don't know what we're doing. Now we're going to talk about the types of auditions. There are 3 types of auditions. I'm going to list them first. The first is called an Equity Principal Audition, an EPA.
Yes, EPA.
That's what we're going to call it. So, commit it to your memory. It's an EPA. It's an Equity Principal Audition.
Alien? What was that?
This was me. I'm being telepathic.
Okay.
So commit it to your memory. EPA. Equity Chorus Calls, ECCs, and Open Calls. Those are the 3 types of auditions. EPAs. Equity Principal Auditions. These ones are the most complicated, so I'm going to start there. An Equity Principal Audition is a required call by any equity production. If your show is a union show, they have to have an EPA. EPAs go like this. They are normally a full day audition, generally from 10 to 6, or if they're at the equity building, 9:30 to 5:30. There is a 1-hour lunch break. There is an equity monitor. This person is the most important person in the holding room. At an EPA, there are rules about how and when you get seen. First things first, the breakdown gets sent out to the different casting sites, including Actors Equity. Actors Equity members get to sign up for appointments during the audition time. Equity members can sign up for appointments for EPAs a week prior to the EPA online through the Equity portal. And we have 20-minute appointment windows that typically try to fit about 10 equity members in them. So like at a normal EPA, the first group would be the 10-10 group. And the 10-10 group goes from 10:10 to 10:30. And 10 equity members can sign up to have appointments in that time. They get seen first, equity members who signed up for appointments. Now, if appointments aren't full when the call starts, equity members can still sign up for appointments the day of. If they have open appointment slots in the afternoon, an equity member can walk into the call and sign up for one of those times. After equity members with appointments get seen, which means the monitor has opened check-in for their appointment time and then closed check-in, if not all the appointments are full for that slot, people didn't show, etc. Then we move to the equity alternate list, which we're going to call the alt list.
Yep.
Those people will get fit into groups as they can be. So the monitor will fit in as many people off of the alt list as they can into each group, depending on how much space they have. If there are no equity alternates left on the list, then they start taking in people off the EMC list. I hope you know what EMC means because we already covered it. EMC list, this is very important, must be made with the equity monitor.
Louder for the people in the back.
You cannot make an unofficial EMC list. If you're at a building and they try to make EMC sign up on a list, you have to tell them that you can't sign up, and you guys might just have to work together to say we're going to stay in line and we're going to know where we are in line. Okay? You have to line up the day of the audition. You have to line up and be in line in the holding room, and when the equity monitor arrives an hour before the call starts, then you can sign up with them showing your EMC card.
With the monitor. I'm sorry to pause. I'm just saying with the monitor. Who do you sign up with? The monitor.
Tricky thing about EMC and alt lists. the alt list never closes. So it could be that the alt list was empty. There was nobody on it in the group before, but a couple people showed up and joined the list while that group was in the room or was lined up to go. So now for the next group, the monitor starts calling from the alt list again instead of calling from the EMC list like they had been. That happens. No big deal. Then, when they've exhausted the EMC list, now they move to non-members. I'm so sorry, non-members getting seen at an EPA in New York City is nearly impossible. There was a time, a couple years ago, that it was easier, but in the last 2 years, there have been a abundance of equity members and EMC members, and we'll talk about that in another video.
Breakout video on that.
It'll be hashtag the history of life. Non-union, it's really, really hard to get seen at EPAs nowadays. Now, non-union can sign up on an unofficial non-union list, which is normally taped to the outside of the building the day of the audition. They can sign up there. Then when the building opens, normally around 8 a.m., some kind soul will take the list upstairs to the holding room and put it on the monitor's desk. People are signing in throughout this whole time, or signing on that list throughout this whole time. Then, when the equity monitor shows up, they'll ask one of the non-union people in the room to transfer the unofficial non-union list to the official non-union list that the equity monitor brought. The nice thing about being non-union, you don't necessarily have to wait in line. You can just often put your name on an unofficial list. Thing to note, they do not have to take the unofficial list. Right. The equity monitor could show up that day and get into the holding room and say, we're not taking this unofficial list, and throw it out and just line up whatever non-union people are in the room and make the list that way. So
it happens.
It does happen. So not often, but it does happen. So if you're non-union, make sure you are there when the call starts, or when the monitor gets there, which is an hour before the call starts. Make sure you're there so you know what's going on.
I also wanted to add that when you're a non-union, non-member, a really great time to attend an EPA is during those dead seasons.
Yes.
That's where we're looping back to that.
Yes.
During crazy audition season, what is our saying? Work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
I'm not telling you don't ever go, but like maybe try to plan your EPA days with days that there's also an open call, like so that you're not exhausting yourself, like putting all of your eggs in a basket that might not see you. But
I forgot something.
What?
If you are EMC at an EPA, you cannot sign up on the EMC list after lunch.
That's important.
So EMC can only sign up on the EMC list before the team takes their lunch break. If you come back and you're not already on the EMC list after lunch, you have to sign up on the non-union list. So EMC, you have to be there at the beginning of the day to be on the EMC list. And they can close the lists. So they can close the non-union list at any time and say, we're not taking any more non-union people. So just know that. Those are EPAs. That is the most complicated of these auditions. Okay, I'm gonna go through the other two auditions faster because they have less rules than the EPAs do. Those ones are like the craziest. Next, we're gonna talk about equity chorus calls, ECCs. We're gonna call it ECC.
Yep.
ECC. An ECC is a lot like an EPA. They are required chorus calls for equity productions. They are often shorter. An ECC is not normally a full day audition, it's normally a half day, and they are typically broken down into two groups, ECCs for dancers and ECCs for singers. At a dancer ECC, it is 99% of the time a dance call first. So if you're a non-union dancer, skedaddle your little booty over to that dance ECC because they see large groups and you stand a very good chance of getting seen.
That's right.
An ECC for singers runs a lot like an EPA. At an ECC, whether or not you are EMC doesn't matter. So if you are not an equity member, you are considered non-union for an ECC. Everything else is the same as an EPA. Non-union makes an unofficial list. They have the ability to transfer that list. The equity monitor can also throw the list out. Bleep, blop, a doop. Also, we should note that at an ECC, There's no equity alternate list. If any equity members show up who don't have appointments, they're just issued a number. So it's a little bit different. Now it's the same thing, they're gonna get fit in before they see any non-union, but it's not an alternate list, they're just given a number. That's ECCs. That was clear. That was everything about ECCs. That's everything else is the same as an EPA except for those things that I mentioned. Okay, now the last one is every non-union member's best friend. Non-union. This one's for you.
Right.
It's an open call.
Yes.
That means that the audition has no union affiliation. Non-union people, it's your time to shine.
That's right. Live it.
There are going to be no union members at this audition. There may be EMC, but their EMC status doesn't mean nothing. Okay? It's called a cattle call for a reason, people. You can do it kind of two ways. Some calls will take an unofficial list. Some calls will expect you to line up. Some calls will post online signups, but that's been very chaotic, so not a lot of people do that. If you sign up on an unofficial list, just know there are no rules at an open call. There is no union there to set rules or guidelines about what the team can or cannot do. Sometimes they type, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll say on the call that they're not going to take an unofficial list. Sometimes they don't say on the breakdown that they're not going to take it, and then they don't take it. Good rule of thumb, get on the unofficial list and then be there as soon as you can after you've gotten on the unofficial list in the event that they don't take the list. There's no rules. You kind of just have to be ready for anything and be ready to go. But it's amazing because there is no way that non-union is not gonna get seen. You will get seen. That's awesome. And we'll do a whole other thing on lists and
we will do a breakout video about the buildings. You think that wouldn't be hugely important? But just to pregame you, each building in New York has its own set of rules for audition.
It's so complicated.
And it's ever changing. Since we've been here, we're class of 2016 and it's 2019. Woo, do I feel old. But it has changed a million times, so will coming to you soon.
Woof. Woof, that was a lot. I bet this video is long. Hey y'all, that's the end of part 2.
What?
This is amazing. This has been Making Our Way Post B.F.A. I'm Em.
And I'm Liv. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay tuned for our future videos coming up, because #Survivors, we got you. We'll see you next time. Peace.